Exactly what it feels like to be working a job, and I know everyone is kind of sick and tired from working their job. They're looking for alternative solutions. Maybe you're not getting paid very much and you want to essentially have higher pay, being able to retire early. And in this video, we're going to speed run a quick and easy retirement strategy that could work for you. And it's going to be no boring statistics, just the pure solutions that you're looking for. And just bear in mind that none of the information I'll be sharing will be considered financial advice. It's just a general overview. Now, a bit of background to myself. I have worked within the finance industry for over 10 years. I've worked at major investment banks such as Goldman Sachs, HSBC, Morgan Stanley, and London School of and I've studied at economics at London School of Economics. There's a few screenshots for you. And then here we have a book we're going to be covering, right? Which is called Poor Richard's Retirement by Aaron Clarey. And who is Aaron Clarey, right? Typically, you'd probably think, okay, I've worked at some of these big name banks. You probably heard of, big financial investors like Warren Buffett and, Charles Munger or any type of finance guru. But what you really need to be listening to is people who actually are in a similar situation as you. And this guy has worked on a middle class income for commercial banks, working as a credit analyst during the financial crisis in 2008. He knows how, let's just say, less than truthful some of these finance firms can be. And he has many videos where he discusses topics like this alongside other good advice for men. He was also ahead of the curve when it came to a lot of trends we see in society now in terms of discussing feminism, also discussing how the economy is collapsing and Western culture is collapsing. As you can see from where my mouse is at right now, he has this video called How to Enjoy the Decline of Western Civilization from 4 years ago. And he had been discussing this topic for over a decade about these type of dysfunctional things and, living a life free from this kind of declining, collapsing Western civilization. So we're going to cover this book and all his kind of retirement early tips for you that typically is contents aimed at helping men, but in this context will be helping anyone who wants to listen. Firstly, he gives you two useful calculators. You can see one's referenced here from the screenshot of the book, the Bloomberg Retirement Calculator, and another calculator here. So you can go and check these online. And I did actually. And what it is, it's a good retirement calculator to think about how much you'd need in your retirement if you want to retire early, right? So currently you should be budgeting and estimating your current living costs and how much your living costs could be in the future. So say you need an annual income of 50K on the basis that you'll be retired. Maybe you're living in a low-cost location. Maybe living in your home country if you're from a foreign country living in the West. I'm ethnically Asian. Maybe if I move back to India, for example, I was born and raised here, but if I wanted to live in India for the longer term, some of you might be from an African background. Maybe you're making your money in London. You want to move back to Nigeria or Ghana or a country like that. So firstly, you should calculate your annual income. What would you require to live there on a yearly basis, right? And I would say an estimate of 50,000 USD. The number of years till retirement. Say you want to retire early and you've got 10 years left of your career and you're focused on making as much money as you can in your job and having money on the side from side income, and the number of years required after retirement. So just to keep it simple, imagine you're 30 years old and you know that when you retire, you'll need 50,000 a year roughly to live in your developing economy, like I say in India or parts of Africa. The number of years of retirement, you're 30 years old, you want to retire at 40 and get early retirement. The number of years you'll be expected to be alive after 40, let's just say 50 years, you're going to live until 90. And then the annual inflation rate, which is hard to predict given inflation is quite high right now. Let's just say it's 5%, or you can adjust, maybe you're living in a low-cost location and the inflation won't impact you as much. And the annual yield balance is that you're going to be making 5% from your investments, investing in the stock market and maybe other real estate, things like that. So you're going to get 5% profit each year. So if you do calculate, you get this amount here, right? Which is you need to have in your investment portfolio, let's just say 359,000 USD, right? Whether that's in stocks, in ETFs, in high yield, dividend paying stocks, things like that, you need about that much money. And how much you will need to have invested today is 121,495 USD. So these are all good things for you to consider, right? And gives you some amounts. This calculator is very popular. If you search bank rate retirement calculator, which is one of the first tips from the book, you will be able to get a rough estimate of what money you need. I know firstly, when you see that number, if you're on a lower income, it might seem daunting, but if you plan and prepare ahead, make some lifestyle adjustments, you can make it work for you. So let's move on to the other tips from the book. So firstly, it mentions what we're doing currently isn't working, right? What we're doing is mathematically impossible, and what we're doing is making us miserable. And what he means by this is working long hours, getting taxed quite highly, in terms of the taxes we pay for income tax. Living kind of unsustainable, unhealthy lives isn't working, spending too much money on social status and, expensive watches, expensive cars, overpriced large houses that you don't really need or use, consumerism, materialism, it's not working. So what you need to do is detach yourself from that. Don't keep playing the social status game, try to keeping up with your neighbors, the Joneses, in terms of expensive cars and houses. Don't get caught up in terms of that passive aggressive social status pursuit. Focus on your goal, which is, again, as the book says, early retirement. You want to retire early and, follow the steps here. So firstly, don't get caught up in these social status games. Secondly, as you can see here, success is freedom. Success is not social status. So once you accept that fact, you can essentially not focus on vanity, prestige, or expensive cars. You'll get a car for the purpose of it being able to drive you from places to places and not just chase the pursuit of social status for the sake of it. Now, the other thing I want to focus on before we move on is he mentions, picking a hobby, whether it's working out, or a hobby that's essentially free, working out, spending time in nature, joining a religion, maybe learning some new skills online, getting a second job, spending time with spirituality. There's so many good, fulfilling things you could do in your life that don't necessarily involve working those long hours or pursuing social status items. I know people, for example, who are single in their late 30s and they're looking to buy a big home, a 4 or 5 bedroom house, because it's a social status symbol for them, because they've been living with their parents their whole life, like many people do until they reach their late 30s now, because of the high cost of living in the West and the high cost of housing. Now, is that really what you want to do? If you're planning on being single for most of your life, you might not be planning to have a wife and kids given the social dysfunction in the West. Picking hobbies that don't cost money is a good use of your time rather than just chasing social status and buying big houses for the sake of it. Now, the next thing is solitary confinement, right? So he's talking about, if you pick one of the big 4 accounting firms, I made a video on big 4 accounting firms and the dysfunctional workplace culture there and other videos. What you need to be focused on is, how can you take your skills and become self-employed? In this case, he gives an example of his friend who was an accountant at a big firm. He became a self-employed accountant, a freelance accountant. He made money on the side. He made enough money, invested enough money to retire early. So think about your skills, how you can leverage them to build other income sources, so you can effectively work part-time on your own side business with a few clients to supplement your income alongside your savings and investments. Next thing is minimalism. As I say, minimalism is important. Don't focus on materialism and consumerism. Declutter, sell any items you don't need. Maybe consider other items. Maybe pursue buying food, clothing, shelter, the basics of what you need, and budget effectively to manage what you actually need, rather than just buying things that are out of insecurity to compete with others passive aggressively. Now, there's a term at the top of this screenshot that you've got here, which is around being a debt slave. And many people are wage debt slaves, which means they work a job, but a significant proportion of that money is to pay debt for a mortgage, debt for a housing loan, debt for a student loan, things like that. So you don't want to be a debt slave. Don't take on more debt than you need. Don't take on consumer debt. Don't overuse your credit card. Don't buy things you don't need. Try to live a low-cost life, save and invest your money, and you'll have a long, happy, healthy, financially free life if you don't get caught up in those traps. And then, and consider what you're going to leave your if you have offspring, what you're going to leave for your family moving forward, if it's not for yourself in terms of retiring early. And then the other thing is do everything in your power to get out of this type of debt. So if you're in debt, really start saving and paying off that those debts you have, so you don't have a massive interest payment to make for the rest of your life. Now, what we've got here in these 3 bullet points on your screen right now is really instances of different personality types who do get caught up in playing this rigged matrix, the financial matrix in the West. You've got people who have to buy the most, or buy a home or rent in the most expensive part of town just to be the cool kid. You've got people who want to be around where the other upper middle class social status people are, maybe in the suburbs, buying a large house, as I say, that they don't need. I know people who are married with 2 kids and they have a 5-bedroom house. Now, I understand if you're married with 2 kids, you might want a 4-bedroom house, you might want some extra space. But if you have a massive 5-bedroom house and there's only like 4 of you, and maybe 2 of them are at teenage age, they're going to be leaving for university soon. Do you really need a big house? Consider downsizing. Consider what you actually need and invest the rest of the money you have, rather than just buying big, properties or expensive location properties just for the hell of it. Now, this is a little bit blurry, so I apologize for that. But here it's focusing on, don't focus on what job title you have necessarily. Focus on jobs and career paths that give you more time. For example, avoiding the commute. If you can work from home, you should try to get jobs that you can work from home, so you can save that time and you don't have to be in the office all the time. You can also focus on jobs that are maybe unconventional, that give you, like I say, being able to work from home. Maybe you have 2 income sources. Given you're working remotely, you can maybe work multiple jobs remotely. You could perhaps work 1 job remotely, and in that extra time, because you're not commuting to and from that job in an office, which a lot of office jobs are pointless and you can work them from home, you can maybe learn a new skill, learn a new language, learn how to do something outside of your industry. So you're leveraging your bets and you're cushioning your career by having different options and different skill sets to offer the market. Those are the type of things you should do. Now, that was essentially a speed run of what Aaron Clarey has to share with us about his early retirement strategy, which is in this book here. It's called Paul Richards' Retirement for Everyday Americans. And he does give examples here of, if you are living a low-cost lifestyle and you budget effectively, you really can make it work for you. And he gives an example here, which I didn't take a screenshot of. You can just roughly see it there, of if you want to track your monthly expenses, you should do that. Think about, again, what you need rather than what you want. And then, because for example, what I want is more time and freedom. And I'm sure many of you who find my channel, you want more time and freedom rather than just pursuing expensive social status items. And that's why you should invest effectively. And that brings me on to my last point here. Now, I offer 3 solutions to help my clients, and I've been working with my clients for some time now to help them achieve alternative solutions to this dysfunctional economy and society we see in the West. All 3 links are in the description. First thing, there's a free ebook giving you some career tips from my experience in investment banking, helpful for anyone with a corporate career. Secondly, I have free discovery calls, a free 15-minute call where I can discuss with you your career challenges or your financial queries. And then thirdly, I offer a one-to-one coaching program where I help you take control of your particular scenario. Build a fulfilling career. I can help you with your CV, resume, your interview skills, and have a role that gives you the fulfillment you want and gives you some of that time freedom, in the sense that if you want remote work from home, we can work on helping you find a job like that. And then I want to help you be rich forever. So in terms of your savings, budgeting and investing, some of which we covered in this video right here, I'll help you develop some of those strategies. And then lastly, in terms of building a life you love, because all of this, picking a career, you're picking a lifestyle, we want you to pick a life that you actually enjoy. So it could be maybe you're living off grid, working remotely, homeschooling your kids, all these different type of solutions I try to help you with alongside building your career and your lifestyle in a way that works for you. So feel free to check those 3 links in the description. There are 2 recommended videos on your screen right now. Thanks for listening. Leave a comment below and I'll see you next time.